What if the reason you're feeling creatively stuck isn't because you lack discipline? What if it's because you're only disciplined in one direction? A few years ago, I read the book Daily Rituals: How Artists Work by Mason Curry. The book explores the routines of artists throughout history from all different backgrounds. That part was fascinating. Seeing how people structure their days, when they wake up, how they work, I was into it. But what really stayed with me was something else. Many of the most creative minds throughout history have had more than just one discipline. They practice multiple. That really resonated deeply with me, as I've always been someone who's been creatively interested in other areas. I've always considered writing to be my main thing. That's the craft I always return to. That's the craft I've dedicated the most of my time to, the one I take the most seriously. But for years, I've also practiced photography, I've crafted, I've made videos. For a long time, I thought it meant that I wasn't focused enough on writing. But now I'm starting to think it might be the reason why I've remained creatively locked in. We often hear that mastery requires narrowing your focus, going all in on one thing, choose your lane, specialize. And yes, I definitely think depth matters. But some of the most impactful artists didn't stay confined to one medium. Pablo Picasso wasn't just a painter. He was also a sculptor. He worked with ceramics, and he made prints. He shifted styles multiple times throughout his lifetime. That experimentation kept his work evolving. Maya Angelou wasn't just a poet. She was also a performer, a memoirist, and an activist. You could say that her performance background grounded her voice and her presence. That confidence also showed up in her writing, and her activism gave her lived experience to draw from. It all deepened her storytelling ability. Ocean Vuong is a poet, a novelist, and a professor. Teaching forces you to articulate what you know. Poetry trains the ear for rhythms, and both disciplines no doubt probably strengthen his prose. When I look at artists like this, I don't feel intimidated, I feel relieved. It reminds me that creativity doesn't have to be confined to one container. I'm not just speaking about this as theory, I felt this in my own life. There was a time when I only identified as a writer. And when the writing wasn't going well, I really felt like I wasn't going well. A slow writing day felt like a crisis. A bad writing day felt like a disaster. But when I started seeing myself as a creator, not just a writer, something shifted. Here's what I've noticed. It relieves pressure. When I've gone through seasons of writer's block in the past, I have leaned into photography and videography. When deadlines would feel less like completion dates and more like execution dates, I would reach for my camera to lower the stakes. I was still creating, still engaging my eye, still composing, just without the pressure attached to my primary craft. That distance often made it easier for me to return to writing later. I'd feel refreshed and not resentful. It cross-trains your creativity. I think of it like an athlete training. A runner doesn't only run. They strength train, they stretch, they do mobility work, some ride bicycles. Creative work also benefits from the same kind of cross-training. Making journals this year has surprised me. It's tactile, it's slow, it's precise. Thinking about texture and structure instead of sentences. But patience, detail, and care all translate back into my writing. Photography sharpens my awareness of framing and perspective. That awareness shows up in how I structure scenes in my essays. The disciplines talk to each other. It expands your identity. This might be the most important one. When your identity is tied to one output, every fluctuation feels dramatic. If you're only a writer, what happens when you're not writing well? But when you're a creative, someone who explores, experiments, and builds, the pressure diffuses. You're allowed to evolve. What if I don't have a second discipline? In Daily Rituals, many artists took very long walks. Walking is accessible, it's free, and it creates mental space. I've walked to my local park after frustrating writing sessions to clear my head. Kind of feels like rinsing off creative residue. A reset. A second discipline doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be generative. It could be learning an instrument, woodworking, gardening, painting, cooking, sketching. Even structured journaling could count. It is not about becoming professional at everything. It's about giving your creativity more than one outlet. If you secretly want to try something, do it. You thought about learning to play piano? Start small. If you've wanted to carve wooden spoons, pick up whittling. If you've wanted to paint with Bob Ross, buy the brushes. You don't have to abandon your main thing, but you might need to create a creative ecosystem around it. Sometimes your second discipline becomes the oxygen your first one needs. And if you're building a creative life that feels expansive instead of restrictive, you're in the right place. I'd love to know, what's your creative focus and what's something you've been wanting to try out, or what's your second discipline? Let me know in the comments. As always, it's been my pleasure hanging out with you guys today, and I will see you in the next one. All right, y'all. Peace.